Picture this. You walk into a store and see a sleek, minimalist soundbar sitting on display. It's got that premium look, the kind that screams high-end design. Clean lines, brushed metal finish, a price tag that says you're getting quality. The salesperson tells you it's got Dolby Atmos, wireless connectivity, and rave reviews online. You imagine it sitting under your TV, looking perfect in your living room. So you buy it, take it home, set it up, and then you actually turn it on. And that's when the disappointment hits. The dialogue is muddy, the bass is weak, and the soundstage is so flat you might as well have kept your TV speakers. You just spent hundreds of dollars on something that looks like $1 million but sounds like a cheap Bluetooth speaker. This is the trap that's catching thousands of buyers in 2026, and today I'm going to show you exactly which soundbars are fooling people with premium looks and terrible audio. Before you make the same expensive mistake, hit that subscribe button and drop a like if you want honest reviews that save you money. And tell me in the comments, which soundbar or speaker setup are you using right now, and what problems are you facing with it? Let's dive in. The premium packaging trap. The audio industry has figured something out. Consumers buy with their eyes first. Walk through any electronics store and you'll notice the soundbars getting the most attention aren't the ones with the best specs or highest test scores. They're the ones that look expensive. Matte black finishes, fabric wraps that look like designer furniture, slim profiles that disappear under your TV. These soundbars photograph beautifully for online listings and look stunning on showroom shelves. And manufacturers know this, so they pour resources into industrial design while cutting corners on the actual speakers inside. The result is a product that wins design awards but fails the only test that matters. Does it sound good? The answer, far too often, is no. This problem has gotten worse as companies chase the premium home decor market. They want their soundbars to blend into modern minimalist living rooms to look like art pieces rather than electronics. And there's nothing wrong with good design, but not when it comes at the expense of audio performance. Because here's the truth. Great sound requires physical space for drivers, proper acoustic chambers, quality components, and thoughtful engineering. When you shrink everything down to achieve that ultra-slim profile, you sacrifice the very things that make audio sound good. Bass needs large drivers and enclosed spaces to resonate. Clear dialogue requires dedicated mid-range speakers with proper separation from other frequencies. Immersive surround sound demands multiple drivers positioned strategically, not crammed into a narrow bar. But consumers don't see any of that. They see the pretty exterior and assume the inside matches. The Sony HTS-2000 deception. Let's talk about one of the biggest offenders, the Sony HTS-2000. This soundbar retails for around $700 and looks absolutely premium. Compact design, Sony's reputation for quality, Dolby Atmos branding right on the box. In store demos with carefully selected audio clips, it sounds decent enough to justify the price. But bring it home and the cracks start showing immediately. Professional lab testing gave this soundbar a 64% expert rating, which is barely passing. Music quality scored 58% and multi-channel audio hit 60%. To put that in perspective, anything below 70% is considered mediocre, and this expensive Sony can't even break 65. The most common complaint from actual users is voice clarity, or rather, the complete lack of it. Watching movies becomes frustrating because dialogue gets buried under background music and sound effects. You find yourself constantly reaching for the remote to adjust volume, turning it up during quiet conversations and down during action scenes because the soundbar can't balance frequencies properly. News programs and talk shows, where clear voices are everything, sound muffled and indistinct. For seniors or anyone with hearing difficulties, this is a deal breaker. They bought the soundbar specifically to hear dialogue better than their TV speakers could deliver, and instead they're squinting at captions because they still can't make out what's being said. And here's another problem nobody mentions until after purchase: standby energy use. This soundbar guzzles power even when it's supposedly turned off. Month after month, it's quietly adding to your electricity bill, wasting energy for no reason. Modern electronics should be efficient, but the Sony HTS-2000 ignores that completely. Users also report connectivity drops when using HDMIARC, where audio randomly cuts out or goes silent until you unplug everything and start over. Firmware updates haven't fixed these issues, and Sony's customer support offers generic troubleshooting that doesn't address the fundamental design flaws. This is a soundbar that looks professional and modern, but performs like a cheap knockoff. Even after spending hours tweaking EQ settings through Sony's app, users report the sound remains flat and lifeless. There's no depth, no dimension, just audio coming from one direction without any sense of space. The Dolby Atmos feature is purely virtual, meaning there are no upward-firing speakers to actually bounce sound off your ceiling. It's software processing trying to fake height channels, and it doesn't work. Explosions stay grounded, helicopters never fly overhead, rain never falls from above. You're paying $700 for a feature that exists only on paper. The premium design hides budget-level performance, and by the time you realize it, you're past the return window. The Sonos Arc Illusion. Sonos is another brand that's mastered the art of looking premium while under-delivering on sound. The Sonos Arc is their flagship soundbar, sporting a beautiful minimalist design that tech reviewers love to photograph. It's curved, elegant, and screams modern luxury. It supports Dolby Atmos, integrates with Sonos' wireless ecosystem, and costs upward of $900. On paper and in marketing materials, it's everything you'd want. But real-world testing tells a very different story. The height effects that Atmos promises simply don't materialize in normal living rooms. Sonos designed this bar for ideal conditions: high ceilings, hard reflective surfaces, perfect speaker placement at exact ear level. But most people don't live in acoustic laboratories. They have textured ceilings, furniture absorbing sound, rooms with awkward shapes. In these real environments, the Arc's virtual height channels collapse. Sound stays locked to the front of the room, flat and two-dimensional. Reviews consistently mention that you need to add Sonos' separate surround speakers and subwoofer to get anything close to immersive audio, which pushes your total investment past $2,000. That's not a soundbar anymore, that's a full home theater system disguised as a simple upgrade. Even the basic sound quality has problems. The Arc gets terribly loud, which sounds impressive in store demos, but loudness isn't the same as quality. The mid-range frequencies where dialogue lives get muddled and crowded. Multiple instruments or voices competing in a scene become a jumbled mess where nothing stands out clearly. And despite costing $900, the EQ controls are extremely limited. You get a basic treble and bass slider, nothing approaching the granular control needed to fix the Arc's inherent frequency balance issues. Users report trying every combination of settings and still being unable to get natural, clear sound. Audio dropouts are another common complaint, especially when using AirPlay or the Sonos app for streaming. Music or movie audio will randomly cut out for a second or two, breaking immersion and forcing you to rewind to catch what you missed. Firmware updates occasionally fix one issue, but introduce new glitches, creating a cycle of frustration. The beautiful exterior and slick app interface can't hide the fact that core audio reliability is inconsistent. And for a premium product at this price point, inconsistency is unacceptable. You shouldn't need to troubleshoot your soundbar or excuse its limitations because it looks good on your TV stand. Budget brands, pretending to be premium. The problem isn't limited to expensive brands. Budget manufacturers have caught on to the premium aesthetic game too. Vizio is a perfect example with models like the V21H8R. These soundbars market themselves as affordable Dolby Atmos solutions, priced low enough to seem like a steal while still looking sleek and modern. The packaging promises theater-quality sound, immersive surround effects, and bass that'll shake your room. The reality is far grimmer. Dialogue in Vizio soundbars is consistently quiet and buried beneath effects and music. Watching action movies becomes an exercise in frustration as you strain to hear what characters are saying while explosions and background noise dominate. Many users report having to turn on captions just to follow the story, defeating the entire purpose of buying a soundbar for better audio. Others describe constantly adjusting volume, cranking it up for dialogue, and frantically lowering it when loud effects hit, creating an exhausting viewing experience where you can't relax. The bass is boomy and unfocused, lacking the tight punch needed for impactful effects. Explosions sound muddy rather than visceral. Music loses detail in the low end, with bass lines blurring together into indistinct rumble. And despite Atmos branding, there's zero sense of height or dimension. Sound comes from the front, period. No overhead effects, no wraparound immersion, just stereo audio pretending to be something more. The virtual processing can't compensate for the lack of actual drivers and proper acoustic design. What you get is a soundbar that looks modern enough to fit your living room, but sounds like it belongs in a garage sale. Why this keeps happening? So why do manufacturers keep making soundbars that prioritize looks over sound? The answer is simple. It works. Most consumers can't demo soundbars properly before buying, especially when shopping online. They see photos, read marketing copy promising immersive audio, check that the design matches their decor, and click purchase. By the time they discover the audio is terrible, they've either passed the return window or convinced themselves it's good enough rather than deal with returning it. Manufacturers know this and optimize for the initial sale, not long-term satisfaction. Store demos are carefully controlled to hide flaws. The content played is specifically chosen to make soundbars sound their best, usually bright, colorful clips with lots of treble and punchy effects. Dialogue-heavy scenes where these soundbars fail don't get played. The volume is set higher than you'd use at home, masking clarity issues. And the stores themselves are acoustically terrible, with hard floors and high ceilings that make everything sound echoey. So you can't accurately judge performance anyway. You're essentially buying blind, trusting that the premium look reflects premium internals. Professional reviews often don't help because they focus on features and design rather than real-world listening experience. A soundbar gets praised for its slim profile, easy setup, and long list of supported formats, while audio quality gets a brief mention that it's adequate or decent. But adequate isn't good enough when you're spending hundreds of dollars. You deserve great sound, not just acceptable sound wrapped in pretty packaging. And the scoring systems used by review sites don't always align with what matters to regular users. A soundbar might score well on paper for having Atmos support and multiple inputs, but if dialogue is muddy and bass is weak, none of those features matter. What actually matters? Let's talk about what you should be looking for instead of pretty designs. First, dialogue clarity is king. If you can't hear voices clearly, nothing else matters. A soundbar needs dedicated center channel drivers or well-tuned mid-range frequencies to keep dialogue crisp and forward in the mix. Many premium-looking soundbars skimp on this, cramming all frequencies through the same drivers and creating a muddy mess. When testing soundbars in stores, ask to play dialogue-heavy content like news clips or dramas, not just action trailers. Listen for whether you can distinguish individual words easily or if voices sound muffled. Second, ignore virtual Atmos claims. True Atmos requires upward-firing speakers physically angled to bounce sound off your ceiling. Virtual Atmos is just software processing that rarely works outside perfect conditions. If a soundbar doesn't have visible upward-firing drivers, it's faking height channels and you shouldn't expect real overhead effects. Check the spec sheet for driver configuration. A quality Atmos soundbar will explicitly list up-firing speakers in its design. If it just says Dolby Atmos support without mentioning physical drivers, walk away. Third, look for professional lab test scores above 70%. Organizations that actually measure frequency response, distortion, and multi-channel performance in controlled environments provide the most honest assessments. Anything scoring in the 60s is mediocre at best, and anything below 60 is genuinely bad. The Sony HTS 2000 at 64% and similar scores should be automatic rejections regardless of how good they look. Don't let design seduce you into accepting poor audio performance. Fourth, prioritize EARC support and stable connectivity. HDMI EARC handles high bandwidth audio formats without compression and reduces sync issues where audio lags behind video. Basic ARC often causes problems, especially with Atmos content. And wireless connectivity should be rock solid, not plagued by dropouts or glitches. Read user reviews specifically for mentions of connection problems before buying. A beautiful soundbar that constantly loses signal is worthless. the better alternatives. So what should you buy instead? The Samsung HWQ990F is consistently praised for actually delivering on its promises. It's a complete system with a subwoofer and wireless rear speakers, giving you true surround sound instead of virtual approximations. The soundstage is wide and enveloping, dialogue stays clear even in chaotic scenes, and the bass is powerful without being overwhelming. It costs more than the Sony or single-bar Sonos setup, but the performance justifies the price. You're paying for real hardware, not just design. If Samsung doesn't fit your budget, look at soundbars from brands that prioritize audio engineering over industrial design. Klipsch, Definitive Technology, and certain JBL models focus on driver quality and acoustic tuning rather than making the thinnest possible bar. They might be slightly thicker or less elegant, but they sound dramatically better. A soundbar that's an inch taller but delivers clear dialogue and balanced frequency response is infinitely more valuable than a slim bar that looks great and sounds terrible. And here's an unpopular opinion. If you can't afford a good soundbar, stick with your TV speakers. A terrible soundbar that costs hundreds of dollars and performs worse than expected is a waste of money. Save up longer and buy something that actually improves your audio experience rather than settling for pretty but disappointing hardware. Your TV's built-in speakers may not be amazing, but at least they're free and you won't feel buyer's remorse every time you use them. The soundbar market in 2026 is full of products designed to look premium while delivering budget-level performance. Companies like Sony with the HTS-2000 and Sonos with the Arc prove that brand reputation and beautiful design don't guarantee good sound. These soundbars fool buyers with sleek aesthetics and buzzwords like Dolby Atmos, but the actual listening experience is muddy dialogue, weak bass, flat sound stages, and connectivity problems. You're paying for the illusion of quality, not quality itself. Before you buy any soundbar, test it properly with dialogue-heavy content, check professional lab scores to see if it rates above 70%, and verify it has real upward-firing drivers if Atmos matters to you. Don't trust marketing materials or store demos designed to hide flaws. And absolutely don't let attractive design override your need for good audio. A soundbar exists to improve sound, not to look pretty while making your TV experience worse. The worst part about these premium-looking disasters is they hurt the people who need good audio most. Seniors buying soundbars for clearer dialogue end up with muddy mids that make voices harder to hear. Movie enthusiasts chasing immersive sound get flat, lifeless audio that ruins their favorite films. Families paying hundreds of dollars for better home entertainment feel cheated when the expensive soundbar sounds barely better than their TV. These aren't minor disappointments, they're legitimate failures that manufacturers keep selling because the packaging looks professional enough to fool buyers. So here's my final advice. Be skeptical of anything that looks too good. Premium aesthetics should be a bonus that comes with great audio, not a substitute for it. Research thoroughly, prioritize performance scores over design awards, and never buy based on looks alone. Your ears and your wallet will thank you. If this video saved you from a terrible purchase, hit that like button, subscribe for more honest audio breakdowns, and drop a comment below. Tell me what soundbar you're considering, or what you're dealing with now. And remember, spending smart means seeing through the marketing to find products that actually deliver. See you in the next one.